Hey guys, this is the Culture Detective here. It's your boy, the Culture Detective. Pew, 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 pew. So, yeah, my short film is premiering in like 7 hours from now, so please go watch it, because if you don't, I will come to your house or your apartment and say please. I will be very nice about it. But anyways, today I'm going to be doing a mini albums review video where I review a bunch of albums that I just simply do not have enough time to review in depth because I am, as of now, a busy man. Which is why, to start off, I'm going to be talking about the new Lady Gaga album, Mayhem. So, new Lady Gaga album Mayhem. This is like the first Lady Gaga album in like half a decade, but I feel like I've been seeing so much of her everywhere, including the new Joker 2 movie, that it didn't feel like half a decade has gone by. Now, with this album, as you can probably tell from the very dark and mysterious album cover, Lady Gaga pretty much goes edgy again. We have the album opener Disease with its pumping beats, edgy lyrics about diseases and dying. I am your disease, and I will not heal you. It's fun to see Lady Gaga sort of going back to that, edgy thing, but this time maybe with a greater sense of maturity, with more modern sensation. But unfortunately, this track just becomes stale really quickly. Then, of course, we have the one of the lead-up singles, Abracadabra, Abracadabra, ooh la la, and yeah, it's, I guess, in first glance, it's a fun track with dance beats, disco, funk pianos. The chorus, though, it's so overblown and loud, it becomes kind of obnoxious. I'm not gonna lie here. The other track here, Garden of Eden, is this 2010s throwback dance pop with campy chants and high pass bridges, lyrics about partying. It's very interesting how much Lady Gaga taps back into that early 2010s era pop music. Vanish Into You is a disco dance pop like an ABBA song, but the chorus is like Bad Romance, essentially. Now, the one cool track that I really like is Killa, which sounds like a Nine Inch Nails track, but married to a Prince song, especially with the funky guitars. And it's interesting because the production of this track is by Gesaffelstein, one of the more interesting electronic artists working this day. Next up, another track I like is Zombie Boy. I don't know what the fuck is happening in this song, but it's awesome to see Lady Gaga still have that crazy energy. Guitar solos, sassy spoken word, bombastic dance beats. The instrumentals are actually pretty sophisticated on this one, and I enjoyed this track for the most part. Okay, we have the last leg of the album, which I think is Lady Gaga's doing this very early 2010s thing, and there are a few moments on these tracks where she just sounds like Taylor Swift. I don't know why. And then the album ends off with Die With A Smile, which before I listened to it, I had no expectations, and then I listened to it and I'm like, wait, I've heard this somewhere before. Turns out it's like this huge radio song or this like TikTok song. I don't have TikTok, I don't know, but I feel like I've heard this song so many times before without knowing that it's a new Lady Gaga song with Bruno Mars, and not gonna lie, it's like this melodramatic song and it's pretty lame. So yeah, not too big on this new Lady Gaga album, but I have to give props to her for having that young energy still, feeling a strong 6 on this thing. New Rebecca Black album, Salvation. This is a huge comeback. Not really a huge comeback. This is actually her second album. Her first album is called Let Her Burn, and it's a couple of years ago. But I didn't review it. I didn't listen to it. So for me, this is basically her comeback from her incredibly notorious Friday song. If you've been on the internet long enough, and if you are older than the age of 18, you probably know about this song, that is Friday by Rebecca Black. I'm sorry to anyone who's younger than 18 watching this channel right now. Like, well, what are you doing? Go to school, study. So anyways, yeah, Rebecca Black's salvation is part of her complete rebranding of herself. Instead of being this corny kind of pop girl, she's basically rebranding herself into, once again, a slaying, serving, cunty hyperpop artist. That's exactly what I wrote down in my script. Yes. So, yeah, in a similar vein as many other, I guess, hyperpop artists these days, Charlie XCX, you get the frigging, I don't know, all these other people, right? Dorian Electra is another good example. I'm sure there's like a plethora of these artists now, but essentially this is the subgenre of pop music that is basically prevalent. And I'm going to be honest here, some of the tracks here I'm not a big fan of. Some of the tracks here are pretty good. The album opener, Salvation, is too overproduced. Trust! Is not a cover of a JPEG Mafia song, but it is the best example of the slaying serving hyperpop that I have just mentioned. We also have other sugary, cutesy dance pop songs like Sugar, Water, Cyanide, which I think, I don't know, I've been hearing these sugary dance pop productions for like a few years now. I feel like maybe it's time to switch up the style a little bit. Anyways, Tears in My Pocket, I actually kind of like this track. It's really well put together between the very hushed vocals and the break beats and the icy keyboards. I thought this track is pretty well done. And then the track Twist the Knife has this 80s disco throwback thing, which I also thought was pretty good. So yeah, a pretty solid album. Not too much to complain about, but also I feel like Rebecca Black still has some ways to improve. Feeling a strong 6 out of 10. Third album I'm going to be talking about is the new Imperial Triumphant album, Gold Star. So yeah, black metal, avant-garde, jazz, experimental, whatever band is back with a new album. They have been making some of the most interesting music in that subgenre, and I really love how they indulge into these steampunk aesthetics, these retro metropolitan aesthetics. Imagine we are at the height of capitalist America, but it's the 1920s, and we are living in this oppressive state where everything is made of steel and coal and bronze and that sort of thing. And yeah, this new album from them might be their best. It's really solid like their last two records, but I think the tracks on this album are even more intricate and layered and creative than their past efforts. Jesus Christ, my hair. So yeah, a few highlights here and there. Hotel Sphinx has this classical tinged synth breakdown and these creepy spoken word sections, which are just fantastic. A couple of interludes back to back, including New York City, which has these crazy echoey babblings, which is so demented. It's not supposed to be scary, but it's the echoey quality of it that makes it feel like it's consuming me because it's all around me. Pleasure Dome has a drum breakdown near the end, which makes me feel like I'm in the movie Whiplash. And then finally, the album ends off with Industry of Misery. What a freaking closer between the fiery guitar solos and the blast beats. It is just an amazing album, indeed. I feel like with repeated listens, I will enjoy this album a lot more because I feel like this is one of those albums. You know, it's a grower, not a shower. But I'm really liking what I'm hearing on this album. I really am feeling a strong 8 on this thing. Fourth fourth album I'm going to talk about is the new Darkside album, Nothing. So Darkside is a project between Nicholas Jar and another person. I'm sorry, I forgot the other person's name, but Nicholas Jar is one of the most interesting minds in electronic music right now, because he's been making some really groovy, interesting music, but sometimes he also goes real experimental. And I think Nothing is one of the more experimental works he has made, but it's so experimental that unfortunately a good chunk of this album feels like demos and unfinished ideas. Surprisingly, this album is way less electronic and it's way more neo-psych. There are a lot of guitar grooves and snappy drums. The album opener, Slough. The singing is so shrill and it sounds awful. But the rest of the album is actually pretty solid. I actually really like the track SNC, which stands for Still No Center, apparently. We have these feel-good guitar licks, and the 4/4 drums are just so freaking good. Next up, Groucho Max, which I think is like a distortion of the word Groucho Marx, is a dusty, off-kiltered guitar thing with shuffly cowbells. It's so industrial and dusty. It's such an interesting sound play. Following that, American References is a very minimalist, skeletal, crunchy, drum-heavy track that's just full of texture. The rest of the album is pretty straightforward, with the ending being kind of ambient, but I think overall this album offers so much interesting sound palettes and textures that I can't help but be a little bit intrigued by it, just a wee bit, feeling a light 7 on this album. Album number 5, I will be talking about the new Panda Bear album, Sinister Grift. So, new Panda Bear album, it's been out for like 2 months already, I don't know. I listened to it and I thought it was decent. I am not a huge fan of it. The album cover, though, it's really good. Possibly one of my favorites of the year. Essentially, the entire album is this cutesy, vibey, psych pop album. Very much in the same lane as Mayweather Post Pavilion. Merryweather Post Pavilion. Merryweather Post Pavilion by Animal Collective. And that's because Animal Collective is actually, Panda Bear is part of the collective in question. Anyways, Praise, the album opener, is a really good song. I love the vintagey, chanty group vocals and the sweet guitars. It's a really feel-good song. But when you have several tracks on the album that basically sound exactly like that, back to back to back, it just comes off a little bit repetitive, in my opinion. That said, tracks like Fairy Lady and the album ending Defense, which features Cindy Lee, are fantastic. I mean, come on, Cindy Lee fits onto this album like a glove. There are a lot of other tracks on this album just feel kind of stale, and I don't know why. It's just, this genre of music is just something I'm not craving in 2025, unfortunately. So, yeah, not bad, I guess. Feeling a decent 7. Okay, to follow that up, I have 2 more albums that I feel like are not talked about enough. I'm going to briefly talk about them. First of all, we have Mdou Mokhtar with Tears of Injustice. I used to call them Mdou Mokhtar, but I think it's pronounced Mdou Mokhtar. So, I'm going to look it up to make sure I'm not mispronouncing it. But yeah, Mdou Mokhtar is a singer, a band, but spearheaded by a singer called Mdou Mokhtar. Complete name is Mahamadou Suleiman, and they are based in Niger. And they make really interesting music that fiercely stands against French colonization. And, well, obviously they're decolonized already, but they want to take the Western colonial elements away from its roots. And their new album, Tears of Injustice. First of all, I love this album cover. I love the light blue. I love it when artists just go all in with the colors of the album. But surprisingly, this is basically an acoustic version of their last album, Funeral for Justice, with instead of electronic guitars and crazy shouts, this album is so much more stripped back with hand drums and just plugged out guitars. And I feel like I like it a lot more. The emotions and the feelings feel so much more raw. And tracks like Imuhar and Imajihan are tracks that feel so much more moving because the instrumentals are toned down. So check this one out. Feeling Strong 7. Finally, I have to talk about the new Yazz Ahmed album, Paradise in the Hold. Yeah, her last album came out like 6 years ago, I believe, and I really liked it. And this album is another helping of Arabic jazz, a very fascinating fusion between Arabic music and jazz music. But I just don't think this album is as tight or as succinct as her last album. Some of the tracks here are really similar with her last album, but except they are so much more chill this time around. There's some highlights here, like Mermaid's Tears, which is actually a pretty straightforward nocturnal jazz ballad that is not that Arabic influenced, but it is stretched to 8 minutes long, and there's something so nocturnal about it that I really like. Into the Night is a quick 1 minute 44-second long track with hand drums, shakes, yodels, trumpets. It's like a dance after a cookout in an Arabic family or something like that. I don't even know. I'm so far removed from that culture. I'm sorry if I misinterpret some of the things here, but this track is a vibe. It's a huge vibe. Then we have Though My Heart Goes to Sleep, My Heart Does Not Forget You, which is a highlight for me. I love the puffy horns, the warped electronic beats, and Yazz's very incantation-y singing on this album. On this track is just such a good fit for the sort of mysterious kind of tone that a lot of the horns are going for. So yeah, very good album. Not necessarily as interesting as her previous album, but still very much a good album. Yes, feeling a 7 on this album. So have you listened to new albums from these artists? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching. Gotta go.